Hey, welcome to Wednesday, October 25th for another edition of Live and Unscripted with your hosts, Jen Saunders and Leah, spelled
Ligia.
Ella. You almost saying that. Oh my gosh, we have Leah live in studio. That's probably going to happen a lot more. Uh, so that's going to be fun. Let's see. Today we're just going to chat today. We didn't schedule a guest, but there's some things that we've wanted to talk about but in all the hustle and bustle of life and change and all of the things, we just haven't gotten around to it. So we're going to do that today.
1 year since India.
One year
we went
since
to India, and we were talking a lot about the myth of motivation. And
yeah, our thoughts on, is motivation a myth?
Yeah. So some things to talk about today.
Yeah, and because it's almost Halloween, next Wednesday will be November, so we're wearing skeletons today. Next week, you can also see us. I don't want to be stepping on the ukulele. In skeletons, more than likely. We're going to be on Janet Thurgood's program, Greater Impact, Greater Life. Next Tuesday, we're super excited to do that. And then we're also going to be hanging out with Luba, who we met in India at her Women Helping Women retreat in Florida in a week and a half.
Yeah, November 7th through 9th is the actual retreat. Retreat meets mastermind is the whole concept.
Retreat meets mastermind.
And it's super exciting because we're going to have a mini reunion with some of our other friends from India.
Yeah, we are. That was really unexpected, and we're super excited about that. So welcome to October 25th. If you're coming to us from our The Righteous Rebels page, thanks for joining us. If you're joining us from YouTube or LinkedIn, thank you for joining us. And if you're not currently a member of The Righteous Rebels Facebook group, there is a Facebook page. We're inviting you to go to the group, as that's where we post all of our information. As far as what's going on, there's an art gallery there that you can be a part of as part of our Thursday unraveling sessions.
Yes.
No, it's Leah's favorite day, Thursdays.
I know. Tomorrow will be a fun, spooky one. So make sure you join in.
And maybe it won't happen so late at night.
No.
Last week's was late at night. Just was a crazy day.
Yeah.
And it had been a crazy week. Last week we did pumpkins.
I forgot it was Thursday. Totally forgot it was Thursday. So that kind of threw things off.
Yeah, that does throw things off.
Yeah. I kept having this nagging feeling like there's something that I do on Thursdays. What's significant about Thursdays? Did I say Tuesdays?
You said Thursdays.
Okay, Thursdays.
Yeah.
Thursdays. Yeah.
So for those of you who might be new to our program, this is really, like its title says, live and unscripted. We typically will just get together and chew the fat. In the past, Leah's been in Canada, I've been here, which makes, an interesting conversation. Or our guests also can be from other places. Sometimes we'll do it. Other times we'll find really cool people that we know. Or this is what I really love, is finding people that we meet in various places. You can go listen to the interview, most of our interviews, really. Erica.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when we met Erica,
we met her
Jackson.
in Jackson. Yeah, we were looking at stickers, and she happened to be there, and she said, "I'm the one who created those."
Yeah, that was super cool.
We had a great conversation with her. You can go find all of those conversations again on the Righteous Rebels Facebook group, or you can go to therighteousrebels.com/
Live and Unscripted
to see the library of conversations that we've had in the past.
You'll find them by thumbnails.
Oh, you'll find them by thumbnails. Leah's been creating fun thumbnails. So it's conversation that we do. I actually really enjoy long form because I feel like it allows the concept of inspiration to really take root. Instead of being stuck on, oh my gosh, we've got to keep this to 20 minutes or a half hour. We do keep them to about an hour. Sometimes they'll go longer, or we'll do a part 2. I'm a really big believer in allowing inspiration to be the thing to guide curiosity and formulate questions, and to really just have real, down-to-earth, honest, authentic conversations. So That's a really short synopsis of what Live and Unscripted is. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, reach out. Reach out. We would love to chat with you and see if you're a good fit. Or really, we'll just interview you.
Or just even if you know someone that has a cool story that you want to share, and we all have amazing stories that make up the fabric of our lives, and those stories need to be shared, and you don't know who could need that message on that particular day. So
spot on. Again, huge believer in that when we get an opportunity to share our stories, we give depth and meaning to our lived experience, and to recognize that maybe some of the hard things that we move through aren't for granted. You just never know when someone will be like, what? I'm not the only one that's experiencing that.
Right,
like,
there.
What? I remember those moments for myself. I was being really pushed by a friend to like go check out some articles that were at that point in my life. I'm like, I'm not going there. It's outside of the things that I look at, and it's outside of my study and where I get my information. I'm not doing that. And when I finally did, I was like, what the? I'm not alone. There are so many people who experience similar things. And why have I waited? So your story has value. Your life has value. And we would love to hear about it. So
it's so funny because I think when you just don't feel alone in that experience, it's comforting. It's super comforting. I think that's why I always go to that the Sark book. I don't know where it is now.
Oh, I took it upstairs.
But I think I say that's a book that saved my life, but really it's the book that made me realize I wasn't alone, and that book also helped me. It was a model for how I wanted to live my life, with that kind of enthusiasm and joy, and that she went through hard things. I think that's where the disconnect was for me, that people were going through hard things and sharing their experiences with me, but they weren't living in a way that was inspiring to me. So
speaking of books, will you go get the one that's on stairs? Speaking of books, Leah happens to be an author. Remember When is her second book. She actually created this in just a couple of weeks before we went to India last year. This is an amazing book on like how to take the scary out of asking questions, especially it was created for our older generation and population, for people like me and you to know how to ask questions. She's like, it's such a done for you fun format. If you want to know more about this, reach out. You can also order on Amazon. We'll put that in the notes. And then her first book is this one, Living with Dirty Glasses, where she shares a lot about her own story and kind of how she's gotten to where she is now. And what do you want to say about those? So, we also have, let me grab that. We also created something together, our first project together, this one. It's the My Revelations Journal, a really fun way to just get in and journal every day. We've got fun pages. It's
just all the little things that we do to keep ourselves in good mindset, habits and tools and ways of thinking that
everything in here was designed by Leah. I bossed around sometimes and said, move that, change that, because we did it from 3,000 miles apart. But part of says unpack the mountains. They were meant to be climbed, not carried. So that's part of what we talk about, is everything in Righteous Rebels.
Oh wait, that's our new sticker.
That's our new sticker. Yeah, watch for that. If you're going to Luba's retreat, that's going to be available, but you also can order it.
Anyways.
Anyway, the creation process has been super fun, and we're just excited to get things kicked off at a new level. Now that we're in the same space, and sure will make things a whole lot easier. So one way we always start before we really get into the conversation, and after we've got the housekeeping stuff done, is to start with breathing. And Leah doesn't know this, but will you lead breathing today? On the spot. There you go. On the spot.
The last time I led breathing, I said, let's try the box breathing. And I think I made a triangle instead of a box. I missed a step. So,
but were you breathing?
I was totally breathing.
Because I've actually seen and had it demonstrated in that way as well.
Yeah.
So triangle breathing.
Triangle.
It's really just about taking the time to pause and breathe and get present and allow your mind to slow down and your heart to slow down and to allow them to come into coherent rhythm, and just being present where you can actually feel out answers and feel inspiration, and instead of always just being in a panic. So I love to start that because it allows us, I'm giving you a chance to just settle.
Settle in.
It allows us to just really be with ourselves and recognize that we have more control and more creative touch points in our lives than we actually give ourselves credit for or recognize, because we're always on the go.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and also I love this little practice because it's a great reminder that you don't have to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to practice. And you know what? If you've got it, awesome, do it. But that really you can do this in 60 seconds and notice a change. So I'm going to invite you to join us and just recognize the change.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to have my hand on my heart. Yesterday I forgot my heart was on this side. So I'm making the conscious decision to, feel the heart. And just really, when we're breathing, just pay attention to your body, how it feels. We're standing today, so I'm going to pay attention to how my feet feel, how my legs feel. Just did a run for the first time in a while. So just taking note of where your body is at. You can look down, have a downward gaze, or close your eyes, and we're just going to breathe in for 10, hold it for 10, let go for 10. And I think that's the triangle. We're going to stick with the triangle because I can't remember the box right now. So
the box is holding the exhale.
Holding the exhale?
Yeah. So when you breathe everything out, you're going to hold that. So
okay,
you can triangle or you can box. You have choice.
The point is just breathe. Okay. So just breathe in. Take a slow, deep breath. Hold it. Let it go. Breathe right into your feet. I can't hold it out, the exhale today, so I'm just going to do triangles. Breathe in. And exhale. And do a couple more cycles on your own. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes or come back to join us. Am I still? Did I do that too soon?
No, you did fantastic. You did fantastic. I love it.
I think it's so funny. I just noticed like all the energy up here that I feel up in my chest when I take the second to just breathe. I feel it like just moving down with every breath, which is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. I think today for me, I noticed, well, one, I could feel that I wasn't standing completely on the mat. Like that was very present in my feet when I just got quiet. But I also noticed that breathing in for that longer count and holding, my body was less wanting to hold the exhale. So I did more of triangle breathing today as well. And I just love how simple of a practice it is to just feel yourself relax. And it's something that I find myself doing often. Like if I am in a state where I need to make a decision either on a moment, or someone has exhibited a behavior that makes me want to just like react to it, how often I find myself just taking some big deep breaths to bring myself back to a present state where I can recognize like I'm in my body, I'm present with myself, I can be present with that person, but in a more aware and less reactive state of mind, and where I can recognize that it's less about me and more about what's going on and inside the conversation, and just end up having more productive conversation. Even if it ends up not, that you're not on the same page, it's still breathe. That's what I'm gonna say. Just breathe. We would love to hear what your thoughts on breathing are and what your experience is. And with that, my gosh, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Leah, I love that Leah, she's frantically typing on the keyboard. I just want to say thank you that she puts in some of the highlights of our conversations, because currently we don't have a producer, and we're okay with that.
Yeah, well, and it's neat too, because you capture some of those quotes that without having to watch the whole interview again, you capture some of the essence and the key takeaways that.
Although we would say go watch the whole interview.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, so today we told you we're going to talk about India and what our experience. I don't know if we're going to talk about what our experience was there per se, but maybe touch more on like, oh my gosh, we were there a year ago. We've been home for a year, and what has happened since then, and maybe how India influenced some of that for us, and then also just motivation.
Well,
is it a thing or is it a myth?
What makes me think of like what is it that motivates us to do big things like that? Because India was a big deal.
India
right?
was a really big deal.
And what motivates us to take big chances like that, or to trust the next steps, even though like our story might not necessarily follow that trajectory. What motivates us to look at those things a little different, because we get a lot of information thrown at us all the time, and what is it that guides our decisions that way?
Okay, so I think that's the first question that's popping into my mind is, what motivated you to go to India? Like when that invitation was extended or opportunity was presented, like what motivated you to go? And wasn't motivation?
Well, for me, I was invited through the lady I published my book through, and she shared it with me as a way it would be an excellent opportunity to share my message, to share my book, and how to heal with empathy, how we're living our lives with dirty glasses, and how that can affect and distort our view of experiences that we've had. So that still is really important for me to share. So it was sharing that on a wider scale. So I think for myself, part of the motivation was that. I don't feel though that was the reason I really went. I think that was how it was introduced to me. But as I learned more about the experience, I didn't really think that it was really about my book. I didn't know what it was about, but I still felt compelled to go.
Okay, so in motivation, thank you for that. That triggered another thought of like, when we talk about motivation, there's typically two different kinds. I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones that get talked about the most. There's extrinsic motivation, so all those things on the outside of us that get us excited to go and do something, and then there's intrinsic motivation, so the things on the inside. I was thinking about this, how much of my existence I lived by external motivation, the carrot, and dangled out in front of me. I used to, as a younger person, I got talked into selling Tupperware, and you got the big kit with all the things, and that was so exciting because I didn't have to buy that stuff. And then they would come up with these cute jackets, and I'm a sucker for jackets, and they would have the cute little Tupperware stuff emblazoned on them, or there would be a trip, or there would be, and I think about how much of that, like how I progressed in the company because of that, and not necessarily so much because I love Tupperware.
Yeah.
Or in other companies, we look at direct sales and things like that, where there's a lot of extra, and there's nothing wrong with this. There's a ton of external motivation. Like, you reach this goal, or you do this thing, and you're going to earn this trip, or you're going to get this reward, or this prize, or this jacket, or this, whatever it is. And how often I was just thinking about how often in my personal lived experience, I went off of external motivation. Now I'm very motivated myself to get things done. But I was just thinking about how differently something feels for myself when I'm going after a prize or an item outside of me versus knowing that, like, the difference of what when that intrinsic motivation kicks in and what a difference that feels. And sometimes it takes it outside to get to the inside.
So I'm curious, you're talking, and I think of my experience in direct sales, because we all get hooked into that at one point or another.
It's part of living.
Yeah. And I remember for myself, it was a company that did makeup, which is hilarious because I'm not a makeup wearer, like very, very minimal. But I was so caught up in the excitement that this person who reached out to me had. And then when I got sucked into that, I got caught up in the community, the team community.
Absolutely. The love bombs, all the love bombing.
Oh my gosh. And that for me was super motivating. But my drawback was, like, I didn't fully, like, believe in the product because it still made my eyes, like, it was a mascara thing, and it still made my eyes burn. And so I had a hard time, like, really standing behind it, but I didn't want to leave the company either, and I wanted to do my part because it just the celebration of you and like
it feels so damn like good.
The shout outs and, like, hey, did you do so? When you're talking about motivation, I'm like, that community was super motivating for me. And I also think it helped develop some of the intrinsic motivation for me, because I was in a point in my life where personal development was like, you only did that if you had a problem. Like, it was still had that stigma, at least in my world, like, you only did that if there was something wrong, and you didn't want to be caught reading those books. But for me, it gave me permission to, because I was fascinated by that world, and I saw growth when I, could understand myself better and when I can look at things differently. But I didn't have the supports around me to make that okay, to really pursue that, or the confidence in myself to pursue it for myself just because I believed in it. But it gave me a community of other people who saw the value in it, not only saw it, but, like, shared it and talked about it. And it just, like, lit up a curiosity in me of what that was, and really took me on a personal development journey of growth. So,
yeah. Wow. Disclaimer, we are not dissing, not even a little bit, any direct sales, no. MLM. That's just, this is me speaking from my own experience of being in a couple of them. And I did have a really good experience. Like you say, the community can be super great. It also can be not super great. I still am part of one in a very small way. Because I believe in the product. I take the product every day. I love it. I love how it feels, but I don't, my reasoning, my motivation for being in it is very different now. But I was thinking about what was my motivation to go to India? There was definitely an extrinsic pull of, like, it was presented to me through another gal in the group, who reached out to, all the people that she knows that she helps either get TEDx talks or boost their speaking presentation skills. And, the draw was speak in front of 500,000 people. Like, come on, that's pretty cool. If that's what one of your loves is, or things that you like to do, or you have motivation in excelling maybe your career or the things that you do. Yeah, but it wasn't about that for me. Actually, I when I was asked if I could do that, I told them, like, I'm born for this. Like, it's what I do. But it wasn't about the number of people. It was really more about the experience. So it really was intrinsic for me, as far as who can I become inside of that experience? Like, what will take place inside of, I got to be there. I chose to be there for 2 weeks. I paid to be there for 2 weeks. Let's be real. And just thinking about, I really didn't have expectations because there wasn't a lot of information to go on. But I knew that there would be experiences that could help shift and mold and shape me closer to how I want to live my life. And part of how I want to live my life is to say yes to things, and to say yes to things that feel scary, because that felt really scary to travel alone, halfway, 3/4 way across the planet, and to do it alone. That felt very scary. Being in countries where you don't know the language, that was pretty scary. But knowing that I would get to have cool experiences, and that I would be surrounded by people who maybe had lived a little bit more life and had more experience than I currently have, whether it's just life in general or through their business or their adventures. For me, that's more what it was about. It was a pull that I really tried really hard to say, no, I'm not going.
It's funny because I had similar things. Like I'm like, no, this is probably not for me. And I think it was my mom that really she's like, you got to do this. And just her conviction, her support that way was really humbling. And
well, and again, like, did she say to you why? Like,
she says, you'll regret it if you don't. Because it doesn't, something like that doesn't come to you every day. And you just never know who you can meet, what experience you can get. And because I was like, no, practicality and family stuff. And I could give like 1,000 reasons why not to go. But it really seemed like I only needed one to go.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's more curiosity, like
the curiosity piece, right?
Yeah.
What was that curiosity for you?
What lies in taking the leap into this adventure? Because it was like there was not a lot of information as to what would go on there. And I was going really on faith and just a feeling, because I didn't really have evidence to support any of that. So, and just trusting that, trusting whatever challenges will come.
And there's something to be said for that, Leah, that I think a lot of times, this is my personal opinion, but also my personal experience, is that in our existence, we're taught to, what are we going to get out of something? What are we going to get? What are we going to get when we show up? Instead of what are we going to give? What can we go and lend to the experience? Or, what is their history? What is their background? And there is something to be said for that, but there's also something to be said for following your heart, like really checking in and following your heart and listening to your gut and going with that and trusting that you're going to learn something amazing. India wasn't what I thought it might be, and maybe far from it, but it was a super awesome experience at the same time, that honestly I haven't known how to talk about. I haven't really known how to talk about it.
I like the part where you talk about following your heart. We're taught so much in our current society of, unless you can prove it with numbers, it doesn't matter. Unless there's been elaborate studies on it, it doesn't matter. You can't quantify feelings.
Right. Show me the statistics. Yeah. Show me the pie charts. Show me the.
But we've lived so much of our life, and granted, there is space for that. But I think we often discount the natural wisdom within us, that informs our choices and informs the trajectory of our life. Yeah. And I think when we're not following those natural things, that's where we feel a heaviness. We feel we can get anxious because we want to try and predict things that we really don't have any business predicting. Or we get that heaviness from like feeling like we're stuck, or that we something in us knows that we're not where we need to be, but all our outside circumstances say we're where we need to be.
And I'm going to say, yeah, it's not even that it's not where we need to be because we're exactly where we're supposed to be. It's a story of our mind, and it's a story that we have been taught like our whole lives. Like, you got to achieve this, and by this age you should be at least here. And blah, blah, blah. I'm going to share a story here in a minute of a conversation I had with someone who is talking about what you just shared, of like, I'm not in the places where I'm supposed to be or I think I should be, and the unhappiness that's being propagated by that,
by that story.
And the reality is we're right where we're supposed to be, or we'd be somewhere different. However, our hearts and our guts know when we're out of alignment or we're off track with our own hearts and our own storyline, and when we've been following or encouraged or to follow someone else's, and
that it's supposed to look a certain way.
That it's supposed to look a certain way, that you've got to do business a certain way, that you won't be successful if you don't do it this way. Like, these are things we're told all the time, and honestly, I'm kind of fed up with it. I don't have the answers either. That's the other thing, is the motivation for me to do things when I'm not exactly sure what to do. And I'm human, so I still like the idea sometimes of being told what to do. But also knowing that we get to just experiment and find what works for us, and you do too. So going back to, I'm like, do I share the story really quick? I'm going to share the story really quickly. So, conversation with a friend. I just checked in with her. I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's been a minute since I've seen you. And I got a message back. Just this really sad, downtrodden demeanor of like, I feel like I'm in some depression, and I just feel really low. I'm not where I thought I should be or where I want to be, or I'm 7 months from 50 and I should be farther along, and just everything that comes with that. And you know, a little something about that, like, how often do you do that in your life? You think you're not where you're supposed to be. But what I said to her was, what are you measuring against? What are you measuring against this supposed to be? And why are you forgetting to look at all of the incredible things that you've accomplished and done and moved through, and the challenges that you've conquered 7 months before your 50th birthday? And why in the hell do we make 50 or 40 these like big markers? They're just numbers. They're just numbers that someone's put arbitrary meaning to, or that you've put meaning to. And so, you know, maybe it's that look at what's motivating you. And are you doing the things in your life that are actually motivating you to take action, that are in alignment with what your heart and your life path is? I was thinking about my own motivation with India. I'm going to switch back. And I just want to say thank you to my friend, if she watches this, or when she watches this, for the reminder of like how easy it is to get caught up in the story of I'm not where I'm supposed to be, especially at a certain age marker. And
that's like our everyday life.
To just drop that for myself, and then to be able to remind you to drop that story. There's no need to carry that baggage around. Drop it right now. Let it go. That was a cue to let it go. Life's just happier and easier when we can let those stories go. And when we allow it to actually unfold, instead of, like Leah said earlier, try to plan out things we have no business planning out, because we really have no idea. My motivation, again, was just what am I going to learn that's going to help me grow and expand in my lived experience, so that I can continue teaching, because that's what I love doing, is teaching and helping other people expand and see who you are, and to really know how to come home to yourself, and in getting to have that mission, and I'm going to say talent here on the planet. The lessons, the life lessons of getting to come home to myself especially after India, was not expected.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've gotten way more out of that than I intended, or that I thought would come from it.
Well, and when you're talking, I'm thinking of what was the takeaway from the actual experience, like in India, that you've taken with you and applied in the last year, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just something that really stood out for you.
Mm-hmm. There are a couple standout moments, but one of them that really stands out is a moment when we had been practicing our speeches and we were broken up into groups, and we were giving our speeches to each other and then receiving feedback and such. And we had gone through one session of this, and we there was plans to have like 3 or 4 of those sessions throughout the day.
With and adjustments and like feedback,
just really getting things dialed in and within the time frame that the speeches needed to be and such. Making sure that we had languaging correct as far as like saying Indian words or pronunciations and things like that. So, and we had gone through one of these, and then did we go to lunch?
Yeah, I think so.
We did something before our next one. And so there was no time to actually make the adjustments or the corrections to the feedback that we had been given. I had actually done the really crazy thing of rewriting my whole speech before I gave it to the group the night before, based off of information, from another person on the adventure with us. And it didn't go over so well.
More feedback.
So it was good feedback. And so when it came time to give our second speeches, not our second speeches, but to run through them a second time with the same group, without changes, in my mind I thought, oh hell no. Why would I do that? Why would I stand up and give the exact same presentation that I gave in the last one? What I didn't see the purpose, and I just didn't. And so it was there was no assigned like you're next. It was just who's going to go next. And I thought, I'm going to go last. I'm going to do a really bold, rebellious thing. And because my speech was on being a rebel and what that means. And I looked at Leah. I had Eric on the other side of me, two of my faves, and I said, I'm not going to give my speech.
What?
I know. You're what? You're not going to what?
What do you mean?
I told Eric, and he's like, you got to do something. And I said, why would I?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I didn't. When it came my turn, and the person in charge was like, and Jen, you're up. I said, I'm going to pass. Dead silence. And I got invited to sing instead, which was fine. Because that was an opportunity also to step back into some things that have meaning and intrinsic motivation for me. But what that moment, didn't just change the trajectory of the experience for me. It actually changed the trajectory for everybody, because it changed the structure of the day. And, we actually were able to take time to make changes and work with each other. And, which ended up being me anyway, ended up being a really cool experience, rather than just going off by ourselves and rewriting things and coming back and sharing them with the group. We got to have some really intimate moments and see each other's hearts. And so that's a really standout moment for me. I think it gave me some courage to do some other things since then that I feel a little bit scary.
Yeah.
How about you?
As far as motivation goes, there was a woman. So the day of this celebration, we went,
which was amazing.
Yeah, we went early in the morning, and we got to sit, along with some the dignitaries.
The dignitaries, yeah.
And we
were like distinguished guests of honor.
Yeah. So I didn't know about meditation pillows. That was not on the packing list for me. And I didn't realize that we would be sitting for multiple hours
Indian style.
cross-legged, in meditation. And they said, just bring a pillow. And I brought the hotel pillow, which is probably still there because I dropped it at one point because I couldn't bring myself to sit on the pillow. And when I saw all these thousands of people not sitting on the pillow, so that was just seeing that was motivation for me to do it their way. I'm in their country. I'm celebrating their person. I really wanted to honor that and be respectful of that. And I remember like I couldn't do it. I just dropped it
They're
somewhere.
accustomed to it.
No, I
didn't know you did
I
that.
totally did.
What the?
But there is this woman that I was like in awe of just how still she was.
Right.
And every time that I wanted to shift or I wanted to like, give up and move another direction, I'd look at her and like garner blah, blah, blah. Garner strength and like recommit to a little longer. Like there's a point where my body is like, okay, stop. But it was really inspiring me to have her as an example there, and it motivated me to try and do what she was doing. I think the other part that I always talk about that I felt really opened up, because part of India for me, I always talk about this, like I feel like I lived in a fishbowl, very small, very protected kind of life. And India, I think for me was really, I wanted to do big things, but I was living super small. And it was my challenge to myself to get out of my smallness and really, even if it didn't do anything for my book, it would give me exposure to other people who are doing the things that I want to do, and learn from them and see things differently. But I think the one moment in India that really sticks out for me is where it's the second part of the day. There's music. There's like thousands of people. We're all in meditation, and there's music. I'm right in front of the music.
Right. Again, front row to the red carpet.
Yeah.
Across from the Indian dignitaries, and right behind them was the incredible band.
Yeah.
Band with all the Indian instruments.
Gosh.
It was
amazing. There was a moment where like I'm feeling the music like just coursing. I could feel all like my cells lit up, and I'm like sobbing because I feel all this energy just like flowing through me. It's just such a powerful experience. And I remember Eric just like putting his hand on me, like just to keep me grounded, I think, and just like, we're still here. Like, this is a powerful experience, but we're still here. And I feel like I was just not the same after that. And
it's hard not to be, actually.
Yeah. I call it my feeling connected to God, like to that greater power again, because I had kind of turned away from that for a long time because I felt super abandoned by God. I grew up Catholic, and that was a big part of my life growing up, but life happened, and I felt alone all the time, so I turned away from that. But I think having that powerful experience opened my perception to receive something different, to look at things differently.
Well, and I don't know about you, but those moments for me, because it was 2 or 3 hours actually.
Yeah.
The meditation in the morning was probably an hour, 90 minutes, but the afternoon one, we were there celebrating. It was a death celebration. I can't even think of his name. Maharaj. Yep.
We said the name so many times.
I know. It's right there too.
Yeah.
So we were celebrating with hundreds of thousands of people the life of this man who meant so much to their village. And there would be music, and then there would be speaking, and I had no idea what they were saying. and yet I could feel it. You could hear the inflection and the feeling in their voices, especially as it got closer to the time of his death, and just the intensity and the power. Like, it's incredible how that brings people together and how it does influence and change you. And again, it brings about that, for me, that internal motivation to go have more experiences like that, because it just changes you in ways that are really challenging to experience or to explain. It's those things you have to really experience. But it's neat how, even though you don't understand the language, there's an understanding.
You can totally feel it.
I had a similar experience in Guatemala, and those you just can't be the same kind of moments. And watching the people around me who did understand, and who he had huge meaning for them in their lives, watching them listen to the music and the spoken word, and to see the expressions on their faces, and what they were experiencing move across their face or through their bodies. And it was absolutely incredible. And for me, that actually was the greater part than what we were there for. And I thought, how has that motivated me or changed me, since I returned? And it's caused me to take some, along with some conversations that took place with other people in our group. It's caused me to take some greater risks, and some really big ones. And the results of those things haven't turned out exactly how I would like them to turn out, but it's given me also a patience and an understanding to stick with it, and to allow life to unravel and to unfold, versus forcing and making things happen the way that I want them to happen.
With your agenda.
With my agenda, or someone else's trying to put theirs on me, or what I'm doing. And it's been incredible to watch the learning experiences that have come from that, and the people that have come into our path. And I mean, you're a part of this. You're a part of every bit of it. And just what we've been able to move past and through. Like, what really motivates us? Like, why are we doing it? We could allow the money to motivate us. I mean, that would be nice. It definitely makes things more comfortable. But it hasn't been about the money. It's about taking our lives and our experience and teaching through them about how to get that for yourself.
How to feel through them. I think for me, this past year has been really, and that's why I bring up that experience, because I feel like it opened up a feeling in me that I haven't known how to access before. Because in this, since then, it's very present to me when things feel like I'm on the right track, and when things feel like I'm not. Like, I can't ignore it. And the times that I do, things don't go well. Like, the most recent example I have is coming back from Quebec, and having, feeling.
This is super recent, like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, like it was Thanksgiving, and
in Canada.
Yes, in Canada. And we had gone up to my mom's, and I had my little boys, and like we cut our trip a little bit short. And I just didn't want to go yet, and they didn't want to go. And like, my only reason for going back is, what someone else might say, or, potentially wrecking a schedule that I had made up in my head that this would be the best way to do things. And oh my God, that drive home was horrendous. And I forgot my passport, and I forgot my computer, because I was
Quebec.
Yeah, in Quebec. So that caused like an extra full day of driving.
Just 14 hours.
Yeah, Because I wasn't following what felt right. I was following what I thought I should do. And it turned out to be like tons of traffic that day. The weather was crappy. The boys were just a ruckus in that trip. And it was just, everything felt off. And because I didn't trust that feeling, because I thought I knew better. Or other places in my life where I feel like a deep, oh, okay, I feel calm, I feel good about this. Yet sometimes it could still be painful, but I still have this calm about it. And when I compromise that, just the heaviness, like I feel like I'm drowning in this like sticky tar stuff. And I can't ignore it because it feels so heavy and it's not where I know I need to be. So opening up your feelers and learning to trust them is scary, especially when we're taught to just go from our heads and what everyone else is doing or what the safe path is.
The safe path, that right there. I think that kind of taps into the thoughts that I have running through my head right now of just, what motivates you? I would love to hear about what motivates you and what really gets you moving in a forward motion, even if that's a falling forward or a failing forward, and I want to just like emphasize that if you're failing, you're moving, and if you're falling, you're usually falling forward. We don't very often fall backwards. We usually fall forward, which is progress. I was thinking about motivation, especially when it comes to things that feel challenging. Like, how motivated are you to do something that feels a little scary, or that might feel like there's going to be some discomfort, or it could have extra challenge to it? And I was thinking about the things that I've done in my lived experience, like running 100 miles more than once at one time, or any of the long races that I've done through the mountains, or the traveling. When I started traveling to different countries by myself, I was meeting groups of people, but I was traveling by myself. But I really think about the running or the hiking, and sometimes there's a extrinsic motivation, because I know the scenery when you go to those places, when you put in the effort and the work, is absolutely incredible. And most of the planet will never get to experience anything like that because they're not interested or they're not motivated enough to do the challenging thing. But there is this sense of what that's done for me is that extrinsic has turned into a very powerful intrinsic motivation, because I know there is a power and a strength inside of me that can only be found when you're doing challenging things. It's a space that can only be accessed when you feel like you're at the end of your rope, or you just can't take another step and you have 10 more miles to run, or just how beautiful that piece can be when you hear your own voice talking to you and saying, no, we got this. You got this. We know this is hard, but look at who you've become in the process. Look at how you've changed. And then the ability to take those things, man, the river trip, like I had so many moments on the river that then I can take those things and I can lay them on top of more challenging experiences of everyday living and be like, no, I know I can build those muscles, and that intrinsic motivation just powers up because I know I can do hard things because I've done them physically. I on adventures or whatever, I can do them in my everyday life. Just how the mental, emotional, even spiritual muscles grow in those moments. And so I would love to hear what motivates you and why you may choose. And there's absolutely no shame or guilt in this. I'm just curious, like, why, what do you choose? What motivates you? What kinds of things do you choose? And do you steer away from or move towards things that feel challenging?
That's a whole other conversation.
That is a whole other
We
conversation.
just started a book, The Comfort Crisis, and I think of like,
Well,
go ahead.
no, go.
I've been following lately a man called Gary Brecker. He used to work in the insurance field, and he could predict through blood tests and some doctor's notes, like within a month, your date of mortality. And I love his story because he's like, oh my gosh, there's other people on the other side of this spreadsheet, and now he talks about health and well-being and giving people back years to their lives. And something that he said, I was listening to him this morning, that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, and how
aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort.
Right?
Damn. Ooh, that one hits to the core. Well, I think I've told you about this. We have so many things that have made life easier, but in that ease, it's also made us dumber, and less sensitive, and less feeling, and less in touch with all of the things around us. And there are certain things I'll do, like when I make hash browns, I could put my potato through a processor, but I do it by hand. I grate cheese by hand. Okay, that's a lie. I often now will just buy it grated. Sometimes I'll grate it. But there's a lot of things that I do
Hand wash dishes.
I hand wash my dishes because there's a really special connection to being a part of that piece of my world. And taking the time to have conversations. And I was watching at Thanksgiving, I was watching Leah's mom shred cabbage on this shredder that looks like literally it's 100 years old. It has been used and loved so much. And we're not talking a little bit of cabbage. We're talking a vat of cabbage. And she's sitting there just shredding it. And it took me back to moments when I've been in other countries and I've watched ladies sit on the floor and how they take corn off kernels off a cob of corn. I'm like, how do I want to say that? Or I've watched them hand knead the food that I would eat later. Or I've watched somebody fish and prepare it so that I can have it. And there's a different energy when you take the time to be with the things, and the discomfort of having to go through the motion of shredding it. There's love in that. There's care in that. There's attention in that. And things taste better, or they have a different feel about them when we are willing to, like, what's the motivation? What's the motivation? And really it comes down to, are you connected or are you disconnected?
Well, and you're talking, and I'm thinking of like how we're always in such a rush because we have so many things on our to-do list that we're just like looking for ways
We've allowed that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have this idea that all these things have to be done so we can be worthy. Because it comes down
and
to
have value. Absolutely.
If I don't do these things, I'm not good enough. I'm not a worthy person. But the reality is you're worthy in just being here and doing whatever you're doing with all your heart. That just has more weight to it. I'm just thinking like go. Like, why don't we want to do that? Why don't we want to, somewhere along the line we think that we're above menial tasks. Why do
or we've made it a menial task?
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's be real. There are things that I feel are menial and I don't really want to do them sometimes. I'm human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm human.
But I don't know, I think of like shoveling big piles of dirt when we were renovating the house, or
snow. We're soon going to shovel a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's true. And there's just something in the physical aspect of that.
I mean, yeah, you could get a snowblower.
Yeah.
But there is something. It's the energy that moves through you when you're inside of the task. It's the time to think and to physically move that energy. And the discomfort of that. You're outside a little bit longer. But there's so much meaning and value and things to be learned from that.
Well, and that's something that Gary talks a lot about, is that we're how we've evolved out of discomfort. Well, we've lived most of our history in discomfort, in scarcity, and to be so fed, so comfortable all the time, we're losing some of those instincts and reflexes and just ability to be in our world and understand it. Like you said, we're dumbing ourselves down because we're not connected to our surroundings.
We heard a statistic today, and I have thoughts on statistics, but that said, as Americans, was it Americans? I think it was Americans, and probably Canadians as well would very easily fit the bill. More modernized countries probably spend 93% of our time indoors.
Yeah,
93%, and we call that real life.
Yeah, we were designed in our physiology to be outside 80 to 90% of the time, and now we're spending 2 to 7%. Yeah. And everything's covered. You have heat, you have air conditioning. Like it's just we're always,
and it's usually regulated.
Yeah.
What do you say? You like 73 degrees? Anyway, it's a little on topic, off topic, but it also brings me to part of what we do and the motivation of why we stuck with it, even when it looked like everything was failing, or that we weren't finding success in the things, or that people weren't showing up, because we recognize we're doing more challenging things, asking you to step into challenge and to probably step into some discomfort. But my motivation came from India. I told someone that I was going to create something originally as a way to make money, and that didn't feel right, and those pieces kind of fell apart. But in that falling apart, like I said, other beautiful things came about, and the motivations, we really got in touch with what the motivations were, and the recognition of how doing hard things like the river trip that we've put together, how it changes you as a person, how it changes me as a person,
and how we can do it together,
and that we don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, and you can share in that experience and the hard moments and catch that in other people.
And there's a power in that.
Yeah,
there's a power in doing challenging things together, and because it brings out pieces of us that maybe we don't get to practice very often, of being support in those kinds of ways, and recognizing, like, wait a minute, I'm doing that, like I'm the strong person in this situation, or like, oh my gosh, I really could use a hand up in this situation, and learning how to receive those hand ups and not take it personally as a you're less than, but like, oh my gosh, I really am at a place where I could use the lending of someone else's energy to help me move on to the next phase or the next level, until that muscle or energy level builds back up. So my motivation for putting that stuff together and keeping with it and continuing on with this business is because, one, I love myself. And I know what those things do or have done in my world. And I have such a huge desire to bring it to you, so that you too can have that same or similar experience of like, oh my gosh, I am so freaking amazing. I have no idea. And I still don't even really know. There's always going to be something that's challenging, or we'll bring those pieces out. And my motivation is, one, is rewarding for me. It's super rewarding for me to watch you step into you and realize, like, to have those aha moments and recognitions of like, wow, if I can do this, then I can do anything. So
yeah, I love that. There's so much value in doing hard things.
Yeah. Wow. Motivation did not go how I intended, which is kind of how these conversations go most of the time.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, for myself, in what really captured my attention in the Righteous Rebels and doing hard things, the aspect of play, bringing play into your everyday lives, and how powerful of a tool that can be in assisting us learning challenging concepts or complex concepts. And but really the creativity piece of constantly being in a state of creation. We're always creating. And I think one of my favorite parts is seeing people start to recognize that
Right.
their own magic and agency in creating their experience, and how we look at things, how we can feel through things, and how we can guide ourselves through hard things.
Well, and how the value of play, how there's actually value to play.
Yeah.
And it boosts the piece that you're talking about as well.
Well, yeah, I think of like when I've been doing hard things or things that feel like they're going to take 5 million years, I make a game out of it. And that you know, I attribute to the creative side. Like, how can I make this experience not be so crappy? You know, because you're going to have to do stuff that you don't want to do. So finding creative ways to entertain yourself.
Right. And you know what I love about the river, and it was brought back to mind today while we were listening to the book of
Comfort Crisis.
Yeah, Easter is his last name. I'm not thinking of his first name at the moment. Leah will find that. Thank you. You know, he talks about an experience where he was dropped off deep in Alaska, and you know, how there was no getting off trail or off adventure if you were cold or hungry, you know, like you can in some other places. And that's what I loved about the river too, is
you're in it.
You're in it. You're all in. Like, well, you really get to experience being all in, because you can't all out. There's no roads in or out of this 80 miles. There's no, you know, side road restaurants or convenience stations or outhouses, or you're in it.
Well, I think of one of our guides. She was under the weather for part of that.
She was under the weather for a lot of it.
Yeah. And there was no way out of it. Like, she had to move through it. And the other guides supported her through that as well. And it was just interesting because she couldn't call in sick to work. Like, no. She had to go.
She still had to guide a boat every day.
Yeah.
And participate in the ways that she could. And so it's just this beautiful experience of really learning how to be and what it looks like to be all in, and to do it in a way that challenges you in ways that you're probably not often challenged, and to recognize that some of the discomforts that you think are discomforts are absolute beauties and things that your soul is calling for. You want to be a better author? Come get on the river. You want to be a better presenter, speaker, writer, leader, just liver of life? Come get on the boat with us and let us show you. Let us show you. Come live a week with us. We would love to share that with you, and to be able to see what your magic is and what you bring to this planet, and then how we boost each other. Yeah. Did you put in the notes by chance how they can get on the boat?
I will.
Awesome. Leah will stick in the notes how you can get on the boat. That trip is for our lovely female rebels. It's designed as an all-women experience for several reasons, and for now we're sticking to that. So guys, we got stuff in store. We would like to know if you would like to have a river experience or something like that, because we have the availability and opportunity to put that together with enough interest. It's August 14 through 20. 2024. Those dates won't change from year to year. It will always be August 14 through 20. And it is an experience worth every penny and every minute of your lived experience. So with that, again, I would just love to hear what motivates you, or why you shy away from some things versus others, and what we can do to assist you to step into some of those things that feel more challenging.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Last thoughts?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of thoughts. I think my last thoughts for today is just try and notice where you shy away from certain tasks, or it feels like it's going to be too much, and really challenge what that feeling is, and are you really as tired as you think you
I'm
are?
like cleaning out the lazy Susan.
Yeah, just really check in with some of those things, and practice being present in doing them, and finding enjoyment in the act of doing them. I think would be my last thoughts for today.
I love it. And let us hear about it. We would love to hear about it. So, all right. I think that's, wow.
Yeah.
It's always kind of fun because I'm like, what in the world are we going to say? And I know how this works. Like, I know how this works. I do it week after week, and I've done it for year after year. And I still have that sense of like, the like more shy parts of me or reserved parts of me want to like play big, and I get to just say, everything's going to be okay. You're going to open your mouth and let inspiration be the guide. Right. So thank you for allowing inspiration to be the guide, for lending to it, and for sharing your lived experience with us, and for getting yourself on the boat.
Yeah.
All right. We love you. Thank you for being who you are and bringing your magic into the world. And until next week, remember, be bold, be brave,
and
be a rebel.
so much easier.